I'm in a new playground and we're going to go over some of the language basics in Swift 3 so you can see what the syntax is like. There have been some changes from Swift 2 to 3, so we're just going to go through a bunch of the basic functionality and really give you a good idea of how to use Swift 3. So we're going to start off with variables and constants, and we're going to use the print function. Then we're going to go into arrays and dictionaries and get into some conditionals, some looping. So quite a bit of things are going to be going on. So to start with, we're going to kind of go with this theme of a grocery store. And we're going to be managing inventory. So right now the playground starts us off with a string called hello playground. We're going to create a constant. So that is a variable. Now we're creating a constant. This is just going to be our food plus store name. And then we'll create a variable for number of employees, and we'll have 15. Now we're going to create a manager. So this is going to be John Doe, and we'll also create an assistant manager. And what we're going to do here is create what's called an optional. Now we're going to go through these variables, then we're going to get into this optional that we've created because it's also a variable, but a kind of a special type. So we have our store name, and if I tried to do something with this, so store name equals new store, this is not going to work. So you can see here I'm getting all kind of errors, and if I click on the error, change let to var to make it mutable. Basically they're saying you can't do a change because this is a constant because of how it was declared. Now for number of employees, and you can see over here on the right, we have 15 employees. I can change that, so I can go ahead with 20, for example. And now we have 20, and just to verify that, I'm going to introduce the print statement down here, and we can print our number of employees and see that we'll get, in fact, the latest one, which is 20. So this print function here, you can add multiple things to it and print them all out by separating each item by a comma. So we're going to use that pretty extensively, and you'll see exactly how it works. So let's go back to this assistant manager. If I go ahead and print this, because it doesn't have a value, we're going to see what happens in that case. So here you can see nil. Down here is the output window, which is basically going to be outputting whatever I've got in my prints down here in this console window. But you can see them over here, everything over here on the right. So we have nothing inside of Assistant Manager. What we're going to go ahead and do is actually assign something to it. But what I want to do first is to take our manager, and we can change that. We can do something like store manager plus manager. Then we'll print manager. And down here, we can see the output. We can also see it over here. So we're going to take our assistant manager and provide a name. So we're going to have Jane Doe in this case. And now we're going to see that does have Jane Doe. And if we take our assistant manager and we put it after the assignment, we'll see that it's going to print out a value down here as well that is no longer nil. Notice though, we get the printout of this optional. So the way we get around that is to what's called force unwrap the assistant manager. This is only happening because of this optional. So we use this question mark here to say we can have a string in here, or we can have this nil, which you can see over here on the right. And when that happens, you get this optional syntax that kind of comes along with your value. So to fix that, you can force unwrap, which is using this syntax here that's called a bang or the exclamation mark. You can see now it's completely unwrapped. The key to using the force unwrap though is that you have to be sure there is actually a value. So if I go back here and I'm going to comment this out, so nothing's changed there on comments, you'll see now we're running into an error. Unexpectedly found nil while unwrapping an optional value. So that's why you have to be sure you actually have a value when you're going to use that force unwrap. So I just bring that back and the error goes away now. So those are some basics, working with constants and working with variables and manipulating them. Then we got into the optionals of force unwrapping and the print statement. So what we're going to do now is move into arrays and dictionaries. And for this, what I'm going to do is create an inventory list. So our array that we're going to create here, everything's going to be in brackets, and we're going to add a few food items. So the first one here makes it a valid array, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a few more. So we'll have bananas, and we'll have milk, we'll have eggs. Okay, so we can check now how many of these do we actually have by doing a count. And we'll see on the right, that's going to render 4 items, which we can clearly see we have that. Now what if we want to add a new item? So we can do inventory, list, append, we'll add bread. And now we'll go back and check that we have in fact increased the count, which should be 5, and it is. And you can see bread is also there. So now I'm going to create another variable that's going to be actually a dictionary. Some of these, depending on your language, they can be called hashes or key value structures. So what we're going to do, because they are key value, is we're going to have a key and a value for every entry when we're using a dictionary. So in this case, we can get the description of the food item along with the, let's say, the count of items remaining in inventory. So I'm going to keep going with this. I'll do bananas. We'll have :80. So you can see here the syntax is string : whatever value you want to have. In this case, we have string and we have integer as our key value combos. We'll have milk, 25. We'll have eggs, 40. And then we can count this. Inventory count. And we can print it. So let's see, what do we want to print? Let's say we have inventory count. And then we're going to show the count like that. And then we can see this print out down here. And next we're going to get a particular quantity of items in the inventory. So we're going to have apples like that. So you notice in this case, we're actually referencing the item with the key value, and it pulls out the corresponding 75. So we can say something like print number of apples remaining, and we'll do a colon, comma, inventory, and I'm using these brackets, not braces. And here we are. And again, we're going to want to force unwrap because this is coming out as an optional. We didn't explicitly say that. That's just how the dictionary works. So to get the value without the optional syntax, we would force unwrap it. Now up here, if we want to pull out something about apples in our array, we can do that like this with the 0. So this is being referenced by an index. You can see our apples are over here on the right. This is a 0 base indexing, so it means we start with the number 0 and count from there. We have 4 items, so we would go 0, 1, 2, 3. And that's why for apples we had to use a 0. If we want milk, it's in the 3rd position. You subtract 1 because there's an offset of -1, and that's how you're going to get your index. So this is the 3rd position. Let's put in a 2 here and see what happens. And you'll notice we get milk, which is what we were after in that case. So next we're going to continue looking at arrays and also dictionaries and how to do different kinds of manipulations, doing assignments, overriding values with them.